It is Thursday morning still. Well, we're moving in the afternoon, really. But I have the pleasure of actually speaking with someone I haven't talked to in, maybe 5 years?
5, 6 years. This is our 7th year, so
yes,
you were right in the very top. Yep.
That's right. Mm-hmm. And, of course, I'm sure for many gamers out there, Ivan Van Norman does not need any introduction whatsoever because he's the star of Stage and Screen.
Stage and Screen. Well, I do a lot of role-playing games, both online and offline, on the wide world of the internet. So
yes, the interwebs.
The interwebs, where the tubes go and connect together, and occasionally we make asses of ourselves on digital television all the time.
Well, I'm not saying you personally.
The internet is a position of place for that, yes.
It's a cesspool of filth. Everyone knows that.
Get off it. Go out and play a game or something. So
right, exactly. Go outside, get some sun, you pasty face. Anyway.
Oh, it's been fun.
So we're going to talk about a couple of products. We got one in hand we're going to take a closer look at, and people will see B-roll of the book as well.
Yeah.
So it's not just two heads talking.
With a little thing, yeah.
So when we first spoke,
yes,
we talked about...
Give us the legacy story, please.
Yes, back in the day, back in 1964. So when we first got together, we were talking, Hunter's Books had just released, or maybe it had been out maybe a year, Outbreak Undead. Mm-hmm. And it was a very, very unique zombie role-playing game where you actually had to come up with a plan to survive the zombie apocalypse.
Right.
And you could easily play yourself. And it's not an apocalypse unless almost everyone dies, people. So your character would probably die. And I reviewed it, really enjoyed it. Thought it was very unique. And then the artwork rubbed me the wrong way.
Right, which you're allowed. I mean, you are reviewing stuff and giving your honest opinion. It was our flagship title. So as game developers, it was the first thing that we put out into the world to be scrutinized by the gaming community. And we were so in the weeds about it, we didn't really realize what was working and what wasn't. Now, 7-8 years later, with a lot more experience, successes, and failures behind us, we're putting out the second edition of the game. You know, which is this is the first time it's been coming out as a survivor's guide, so it's like the player's handbook for our system. Okay. And as you can see,
we'll do B-roll.
Yeah, but it's a whole different kind of situation where now the game is actually broken down into 3 different levels of difficulty. So if you want to get the basic rules just to learn how to play, you can read all the green rules. We call those the arcade mode rules. Sure. And if you want a little more immersion, a little more crunch in your survival horror, then you can play Weekend Warrior, which is the yellow rules. And if you still...
I hear red coming.
And red's coming. Survivalists, we're talking BMI, kcal index, and hit locations, and everything that makes people feel like that they're truly simulating their zombie survival scenario.
So all of you out there who belong to a militia in Michigan, that is going to be the sort of game level you'll want.
They do exist and they do play and they do love their hit locations. So yes, basically it's Outbreak Undead for everybody. The game originally, when we first put it out, we basically gave you a giant toolbox and we said, go make something, but we didn't leave really any instructions on how to use the tools, you know? Correct. So now the book's laid out in a way that kind of showcases how you can go through the game and play out either very simple scenarios of run and gun, or go and do extended missions where you're going off to find, survivors or establish a stronghold.
Save haven, right?
Yeah, exactly. Your own strongholds. And in fact, there's very, very in-depth rules now for how strongholds work in the game book as well, too, even in the player's guide. Your stronghold is almost its own character now, with its own stat line, and it has its own modules and upgrades based on resources you're bringing into the space. So
I have to ask, because there were some expansions as well to Outbreak. You had Outbreak Space.
You had Deep Space.
Deep Space.
Yeah.
You had Animal Kingdom.
Animal Kingdom, yeah.
Are we going to see revamps of those for the second edition?
There are going to be some. So right now we're focusing on getting the core set out, but we are going to revisit some spaces. And actually, this is Christopher De La Rosa here. Come on in, Chris. So this is actually the lead developer here.
This guy's just jumping in there.
He's just hopping in.
Just pulling people right off the...
Well, coming by this project at all.
No, right? just walk away.
We brought you in because you're just wearing a shirt.
I'm just a fan, guys.
Some advertising.
But no, he's the man on the front cover. So we're really excited because
that's all that's on the front cover is his face, and it's weird. It's like this is a zombie game. Why is there?
You're really pretty though, Chris. I have to say, you're doing pretty well for yourself. The stronghold system does literally allow you to be able to go and kind of create a safe haven for you to do stuff. And we are planning on, we haven't made any official plans of like a release schedule for what we're going to visit after the core set's done, but we are going to be making
there's things in the wind.
There's things in the wind. So we have what's called the Strain series, and Strain series is like our Outbreak scenarios that you can roll. Like if you don't want to make your own Strain or you don't want to make your own Apocalypse, we have a couple ones like Zombiv and Chimera are all slated to come out post this release.
They're actually written, but they're in the design phase right now. But they don't take precedence to the actual core set, obviously. Right. So the writing is already done on these, but we just make sure we can get the release schedules consistent enough that people will feel like we're continually making things. Yeah,
supporting the system, which is the plan. This isn't just a one and done game system.
No. Is this a Gen Con release?
This is a Gen Con release.
Yes, I was curious if it was a Gen Con release or if you had jumped on the slow boat and just parasailed in, grabbed a copy so you could show it off.
No, we didn't air freight it out. This is a Gen Con release. We had the first sign, and they're being shipped to our backers right now. Actually,
okay, very cool.
So we're literally there's a couple of other parts like additionals that are going to be added. Like we have tokens and PDF sets and all that, but those are slowly going to be released out as the year goes on.
Okay.
Right now the Survivor's Guide is the first thing to pick up, which will release in stores around October.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
And unfortunately, everyone watching this, Gen Con's over. So
gotta wait until October, but you can pre-release it on RenegadeGames.com.
That's right, because it is being co-produced
with Renegade.
Yeah, the fine folks at Renegade Game Studios.
Yeah. So we're doing both Kids on Bikes, Outbreak Undead, and then we're working with the digital rights for Overlight as well too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's change gears a little bit.
Sure.
No pun intended. Kids on Bikes.
Yeah. Well played. You have to go check out the photo location we made. It's over in the Event Hall C, by the way. We have a giant kid on a bike with a spinning wheel.
So we go from zombie apocalypse to kind of Stranger Things-ish. So a little change in tone.
Goonies, yeah.
Like Goonies.
Super 8.
Right.
E.T. even. So while Outbreak Undead is a very great immersion survival horror game, Kids on Bikes is kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. It's a very storytelling rules light system that just uses polyhedral dice. The better you are at a stat, the more sides on a dice you have. And it's really mostly about communal storytelling. It was developed by Jonathan Gilmour and Doug Litovansky, and we basically have the standard edition is going to be available soon to stores. I don't remember the exact date.
There was a free RPG preview.
It was a free RPG Day preview. Yeah. And it was, honestly, people really enjoyed it. Like it's a new thing. Obviously the zeitgeist, people are enjoying this ideas of like 80s nostalgia, going back to their arcade days playing.
Sure.
So
that's what I would actually kind of ask is because I wouldn't say there's a glut, but there are quite a few nostalgia playing kids games. Tales from the Loop is a fantastic example.
It's a fantastic, and it's a great game.
It is a great game.
And it's the only thing, and we do get this a lot, like what's the difference between you and Tales from the Loop?
What stands out about Kids on Bikes?
So the big one is that Tales from the Loop, first of all, just book size. Like the Kids on Bikes book is a 4x6 kind of novelette
like
style.
A digest size?
Yeah, digest size.
Okay.
That is under the standard edition's like a little over 100 pages. Okay. And it's much more centered around world building, while Tales from the Loop is like an established world.
Right, exactly.
With a map.
Well, when you're basing it on someone's artwork.
Yes.
Yeah, you gotta kind of don't have a lot of.
So the whole point is there's a lot of pre-established mechanics and rules and sets that are in Tales from the Loop. When we kind of say, make your own.
Right, exactly.
Like this is good for like if you want to run extended campaign, sure, but if you want to run a 4-hour session in which you're literally like looking for gold on the Newport coast with a certain friend that happens to not be all there in the head, then you can do that.
Sure.
Or if you just want to, we have a powered player deck. One of the unique mechanics of the game is that everyone shares the responsibilities of a powered player. So they all take one of their aspects or powers, and they essentially can activate that as part of the storytelling. So there's not like one OP player
Sure, right.
who's got telekinesis or whatever.
Right. And everybody else is just like minions.
Right. So they all share the responsibility.
Sure. And that should be hitting retail soon?
Soon, yeah. I think in the next, I think it's probably going to be a September release in stores, yeah. So all of this stuff, we're also sending it all out to backers now because all this stuff just hit the warehouses for Gen Con. So, woo.
Any other things that you got in the loop right now, in the pipeline that you can share? I'm sure you got plenty of irons and fires.
How much can we actually talk about?
We can't talk about theirs until tomorrow.
And can't talk about that over here.
Can't talk about that one.
Certainly can't talk about that.
And this thing up here.
No,
Nope.
I mean, this is mostly releases in the same genre. We've talked about some different settings for kids on bikes. Should we just throw out the ones kids on booms?
Oh, well,
You're working on some setting books.
we're working on some setting books, yeah.
So we're doing that. And I told you about the Outbreak settings, this Strain series, because if it's set in the real world, the only thing that's really different is how the virus affects everyone around it. So that's why it's centered on the Strain series. So that's a big deal. A couple of specific settings for that. A lot of
We are working on a board game.
and a
right
board
now.
game version of it.
Yeah, our board game version of Outbreak and our first board game.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's just
so-
tell them what Kraken. Then.
Yeah, we were working on it's tentatively titled Kraken!
Kraken.
Exclamation point. Yeah, and it's a tile-laying abstract game in which you are vengeful gods who have laid down a kraken upon a boat, and you're watching as it slowly is eating up the board until no one survives.
Nice.
Yeah, very much in our theme of kind of
Everyone dies.
everyone
Yeah,
dies.
it's kind of our thing. Except they're kids on bikes.
no.
That's the same thing.
Warms the cockles of your heart playing these games.
TPKs.
They're perfect for Christmas time.
Yeah.
With Grandma
They're
and
holiday releases,
Right,
really.
exactly.
Yeah, see,
So.
TPK's kind of.
Oh, we also do. We actually one thing has been announced. So our children's book, The ABCs of RPGs,
Right, yes.
which came out a couple of years ago, we have officially announced that license is now going to Dungeons and Dragons. So now it is the ABCs of D&D and the
Nice.
1, 2, 3s of D&D.
Right.
That's available for pre-order right now. It's going to go through. Dungeons and Dragons, and you can pre-order that on their website now as well
Sure,
too.
right.
Little $15 children's books for players of all levels.
Yeah, I got an adult coloring book that just dropped.
Yep,
too.
they did.
Yeah,
Adult
they did.
coloring book. Yeah.
Buddy.
So we're part of a series of like, you could say gateway products
Sure,
for
right.
people who are into D&D or want to learn more about D&D, including
Excellent.
toddlers.
And I know you actually have to GM a game, so you need to run.
Thank you for keeping me on schedule.
I'm trying. So, Ivan,
Thank you.
Chris, thank you so much. Have a
Yeah.
great show.
Have a great show, man. Thanks so much.
Sure thing. Thanks again for watching The Daily Dope, presented by The Gaming Gang. If you like this episode, be sure to give it a quick thumbs up. And if you dig the channel, please subscribe. If you'd like to check out our previous episode, click right here. And if you want to check out a somewhat randomly selected episode, give a click right down here. It'll be like opening a box of Cracker Jacks. You just don't know what you'll get. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'm Jeff McAleer.